I thank the gentleman from Idaho for yielding to the gentleman from Iowa. And there are about 4 people on the floor right now that do know the difference. I rise today, Madam Speaker, to give a great message of gratitude and thanks to Congressman Tom Latham. And I want to tell a little bit of the narrative of how this unfolds and from the perspective of Iowa. And that's this, that, we're all politics all the time. And there's no off season for us. You're always on season. And when the Iowa caucuses emerge, there's a big focus on presidential politics. If you're on the State Central Committee, you're in the middle of that arena. That's where I first met Tom Latham and first became aware of his commitment to the political arena and to conservatism. And I would want to let the body know, Madam Speaker, that Tom Latham didn't come from a place that was a big, magnificent megapolis, unless you would want to describe Alexander, Iowa, with 160-some people as a big megapolis. 168 people will be the population of Alexander, Iowa, rooted in now a 3-generation seed company and rooted in the soil. And I don't have to explain this to the people from either Idaho or Iowa, but all new wealth comes from the land. And it regenerates itself every year in the form of corn in our neighborhood and soybeans, potatoes in Mr. Simpson's neighborhood. But when you see where the origin of wealth comes every year, and you see the families that came across the prairie and turned the sod for the first time and maybe built their house out of it and put their roots down into that soil, and then took the family farm that raised the wealth and boiled that out of there and over from the farm to the town to the city, and you see a family business with multiple brothers engaged in it and 3 generations now, you know that they're tied to the heartland and the good of what's good about Iowa and America. And that's what Tom Latham brought to the political arena from the State Central Committee to a primary into the United States Congress in 1994, and then catching that wave, the 94 wave, and being elected to the United States Congress 20 years ago. And I take a look at him now and I think, he's no worse for wear. It's the same Tom Latham that came here 20 years ago that's going off into retirement today, or shortly here at the end of this Congress. And he hasn't lost his enthusiasm. But here's what I see. And it's, this is a Steve King perspective, Madam Speaker, and that is that everybody that comes to this place has their own style and their own way of getting things done. But the people that have worked with Tom Latham for these years know that it isn't always an issue that's run up to the flagpole. It doesn't come necessarily with lights and blaring horns, but it gets done. It gets done in a quiet way. It gets done sometimes with just a slow persuasion. It gets done with building a network of people that want to help and want to get things done. And so when I was elected to come to this Congress in 2003 and inherited a lot of the real estate that had formerly been represented and the constituents that had formerly been represented by Tom Latham, I noticed that there were ribbon-cutting ceremonies taking place in my district, and I wasn't necessarily the lead guy when it came to the ribbon cutting. It was Tom Latham that laid the groundwork for that for years, and they knew it, and they still know it. And the friends and the relationships that were built were doing a good job of representing constituents throughout those years are still there. They still exist. And it's been an easy thing for me to step into that neighborhood because they were well taken care of and well represented. And so now after moving from agriculture over to the Appropriations Committee, I just remind the body that Tom is the only Iowa member on the House Appropriations Committee, and he's done a good number of things with projects, not only the transportation projects, but the Iowa National Guard, ag, economic development, small business development, and he's currently chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, and some related agencies, and he serves on the appropriations for agriculture, rural development, food and drug, and also on Homeland Security. That's an influential footprint in this Congress, and the people that arrive here as freshmen and sophomores recognize that. But I recognize also this man that is rooted in Iowa soil, that is the continuation of the family farm and the family business, that it relies upon the very foundation of our economy, that all new wealth comes from the land, and that there is a core of family and faith and neighbors and neighborhood that Tom Latham has brought to this Congress. And wherever he ends up in his retirement, we all want to congratulate him and say to Tom Latham that congratulations, you have earned it. You picked your time. You've done it your way. And there are only about 3 ways to leave this Congress, and one of them is to get beat, and one of them is to die in office, and the other one is to choose your time to retire. And I'm glad that you are fit and vigorous and prepared for a fit and vigorous retirement, but it wouldn't be appropriate, Madam Speaker, for me to conclude my portion of this without saying into this congressional record a deep and heartfelt thank you to Kathy Latham. And it's from me personally, as well as for a lot of reasons across this hill, the work that she has done. You got oftentimes 2 for the price of 1 with Tom and Kathy Latham. And she has sacrificed a number of times that made my life easier and made things work better for Iowa, for the House of Representatives, and for this country. And I think that the best interest have always been what made the decisions in the Latham family, which, by the way, now ranks up in about the top 3 of Iowa political families. So pay attention, Madam Speaker, to the Latham family going forward. They're not done yet, but they do have a patriarch that's going to ride off into retirement. Thank you a lot, Tom Latham, for serving our country. God bless you. I yield back.